Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the ESI Digest where we run through the biggest esports industry stories this week. I'm your host, the sub-editor of Esports Insider, Tom Daniels, and yeah, let's get straight into the news. So we've got news of XL Esports unveiling a new brand. We've got Rect Global announcing a new co-owner. We've got Cloud9 extending their Puma partnership with some interesting apparel launches. And then we've got Hector Rodriguez returning back to CSGO. And then we're going to end this off with Envy Gaming launching Envy US, a new membership program. So let's start straight though with the with what was, I would consider, like a major day yesterday in esports. There was two major launches that had occurred and major announcements that had occurred as well. The first one being XL Esports unveiling yet another brand update is what they're wanting to call it. It's got a new logo and they're going through this new power of better ethos mantra. Along with the new logo, which I'll talk about a little bit in a second, they've also got like new apparel which has come out, new merchandise, and then like a ranging colour palette. And so this is, I believe it's like the third like brand visual update. It might even be the fourth brand visual update actually, since founding in 2014. But I do think that actually looking at the logo itself and looking at kind of what they're kind of pushing their brand to be, I actually see this as like a really big kind of upgrade from what has been previous iterations. And the reason why is because I think a lot more esports organizations are looking at apparel. And you actually look at the XL logo, which you could see on the Esports Insider website as well. You can actually see that it appeals, I think, a lot more to the kind of traditional like brands which you see wearing apparel and clothing. And so I think with the adaptable color palette, there's no actually one fixed like color palette for the logo. You have a lot more range of kind of creating a lot more different apparel, which can appeal not only to esports but to the mainstream community as well. Now, talking about this kind of power of better like ethos, we're seeing it a lot more with esports organizations, such as the biggest example for me is FlyQuest kind of changing what is seen as this perception of esports. I mean, obviously FlyQuest have been doing it with like their eco-friendly initiatives, and this power of better seems to kind of follow a similar suit in the sense that it's all about empowerment and kind of, you know, being a better person and striving to be the best. So let's go on to like our second story now, and our second story, which also dropped at the exact same time on the exact same day, is Rect Global. So obviously the Rect Global is the massive esports organization which owns the likes of Rogue as probably the biggest example, and also the London Royal Ravens. And so we're going to be specifically talking about the London Royal Ravens here. They've just announced a new co-owner, and the new co-owner is YouTuber and streamer. It's Vicstar, or Vicstar123. And I find this kind of like a very interesting announcement to have been made. Obviously, it received well on social media with his high social media influence, and I think that that's what's going to make this a success, is the fact that Vicstar does have this popular kind of, again, mainstream appeal along with kind of an esports appeal. He's been doing recently with the Call of Duty Warzones. I think he's hosted his own tournament, so it's not like it's an alien kind of investment which has gone in. Essentially, this is a person who does actually know that you're probably a lot about the Call of Duty scene, at least from like a gaming perspective. And so it'll be interesting to see how he kind of collaborates with the organization. And I can imagine him, I mean, Rect Global have said that he will be essentially the face of the London Royal Ravens, and there'll be likes of collaborations, probably giveaways, and it'll be heavily influenced on top in terms of pushing his followers, I think, to the brand as well. It's another brand activation move as well, along with an investment opportunity for Vicstar. And it'll be, like I said, I'm really looking forward to this Call of Duty League and how it's kind of going to shape up. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in our later story. Now, before we talk about the Call of Duty news, I do want to kind of preface this with a little bit of Cloud9 apparel launch, but we've seen apparel launches a lot more, I think, in esports. Obviously, Team Liquid Marvel is probably the biggest example. But Cloud9 have obviously expanded the Puma collaboration, and they've gone into kind of the footwear now. So what has happened now is Puma have basically got, I'm going to read what the exact models are, but it's 3 footwear silhouettes. It's the Future Rider, the RSX, and AGF, which is active gaming footwear. I'm not I'm not like the biggest kind of like sneakers or footwear like fanatic, so I don't really know exactly what that is, but it sounds cool nevertheless. And I think that what actually this shows is that there is a lot of faith being put into Cloud9 for them to actually have a footwear launch in a reputable footwear brand in Puma. And so it kind of shows how there's more apparel being done in different ways, and hopefully we kind of see that. It's not just apparel with this Puma launch as well. It's footwear, they've obviously got t-shirts, and then they've got merchandise as well. And so it kind of goes on from the previous partnership where I believe it was like January last year they started, and then they announced like a multi-year extension, and so this is kind of the continuation of that. And so we'll see how this develops, because already they've kind of got into the footwear range, which from the reception from what a lot of people have been saying, it is very positive. I personally looked at them, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not really like a footwear person, but like having kind of an esports going into kind of footwear kind of does intrigue me as well. But I'm really interested just to see how this kind of partnership develops and how we can see other partners as well, because it'll be interesting to see where those apparel companies or those like merchandisers or those manufacturers, for example, with Puma, how they collaborate with esports organizations more and how they can kind of create new things, because I think that that's kind of what we're going through right now. It's innovation in what they can do with merchandise in the esports scene. Right, now I did say that we'll be going into some Call of Duty news again, and so let's talk about Hector Rodriguez, H3CZ or Hex, basically reacquiring OpTic Gaming and rebranding the Chicago Huntsman, into the Chicago OpTic. Apologies for that. Big news. It's news that I think we kind of knew for a while. Obviously, Hector Rodriguez has been the co-owner of NRG Esports recently, and also been the CEO there as well. So we kind of knew that this OpTic brand was going to be eventually integrated into all of this, but it's nice to have this finally confirmed. And I do want to just touch on this a little bit, where I actually think that this is going to be so big for the Call of Duty scene and also for OpTic Gaming as a whole. So Hector Rodriguez was a major name, obviously, for OpTic, and so to have him fully on board again, you've seen it online, that the response has been positive, and you can kind of hope that it kind of rebuilds this very old school brand and, you know, possibly put it into like a newer generation as well, because I do think that there are going to be a few generations who may not even be as familiar as like the prime OpTic, which have been seen prior. Now, to put this onto the other hand as well, this also boosts the CDL, because now you've got OpTic Huntsman, Chicago OpTic, I need to get used to saying that, in the CDL. You've also, like I said, got the likes of Nadeshot. You've now got Vicstar also running or co-owning the London Royal Ravens as well. So these big name personalities boosting up the league, hopefully boosting up the viewership, which was already doing pretty well prior to that as well. And it kind of shows how there's another esports organization which has been continually doing well in Call of Duty, but hopefully pushing these boundaries and trying to break more and more records in terms of viewership and in terms of engagement as what they can do. And with these three caveats all coming together, that's a major story for me. And so, yeah, seeing Hector Rodriguez back with OpTic Gaming, going back into the COD League, it'd be interesting to see what other like ventures they go into as well. But it's an interesting time for Call of Duty, definitely. The final story then, it's North American organisation Envy Gaming, which is the parent company of Team Envy, and the Overwatch franchise Dallas Null, and the Call of Duty franchise Dallas Empire, has launched a membership program called Envy US. Now, what this membership program does is it allows fans to get more of an access in terms of giveaways, discounts. I think there's a members-only Discord server as well. There is a silver membership, which is free, but then there's a premium membership as well, which I believe is around $30 a year. So we've talked about fan engagement quite a lot, I think, in the digest, but this is a different kind of fan engagement from what we've been seeing prior with like blockchains and tokens. It's another opportunity of fans kind of staking their claim as super fans and trying to gain more opportunities when it comes to interacting with the brands and with the organizations themselves, which is, again, we've talked about a massive thing right now: fan engagement, driving people to your brands, especially when there are a lot more people who, with the way that the current climate is, it's very online based. You can't physically go and see someone or see your favorite players compete. So they've kind of adapted it in different ways. I do want to caveat this. I didn't want to put this in as a separate story as well, but obviously Cloud9 have also launched their own fan engagement kind of super fans platform as well. I believe that's like £500, so there's a lot more which you gain from that. That does also show that there is ranges of how you can kind of price these memberships and what you can get out of it. Obviously, the higher the price, the more benefits you would get. So I'm really looking forward to see what these memberships are like. For me, if it's tailored to a super fan, then it makes sense to be paying kind of, what is Envy right now, $30 a year. And if you're a super fan and you're invested in that organization, then it provides a good incentive and a good kind of reward for a small price anyway, to kind of show that you are loyal to that brand. And so, yeah, that's all really the esports news of this week. Like I said, there was a lot of news. There's a lot more news as well. If you want to read some more news, go to esportsinsider.com as well. There's a lot of news this week. I keep saying this every week, but it keeps getting bigger and bigger, which is good. That's a good thing for the esports industry. So, yeah, I've been Tom Daniels, and we'll see you next week.